Hello, welcome. We're seeing you arrive. The numbers are rapidly increasing. We're probably not going to start on time. We're just going to wait for people to come into the webinar, but welcome. What you can probably see is the speakers on one side of your screen and a copy of the Music Essay website on the other side of your screen, because we're going to be speaking to the website. There's currently nearly 20 of us in the webinar. I'm just waiting for more people to join, and they are. The numbers are jumping up. So thanks for joining us, and please be patient. We've been trying to figure out how to get a screen view of all the participants. Oh, Steve has said, hello, everyone. We can see, can everybody read the chat down the bottom of their screen?
No, it's just for the panelists, I think.
Is it? Okay.
I think.
You can choose, if you want to use the chat feature, you can choose to direct it to someone else who's in the webinar as an attendee, or to a direct panelist, to the panelists and attendees as well. So there's a couple of different functions you can choose who to select.
Yeah, by all means, play around with it and figure out what works for you.
Okay, I'm gonna go Facebook Live.
Great. So we are in the webinar, and also just going, we are now streaming on Facebook as well. So welcome everyone. We're just waiting for a couple of minutes for other people to join the webinar before we start. The numbers are slowly jumping up. There is a little Q&A button on the bottom there. And we are recording this as well in case you need to leave at some point and don't want to miss out on what we've been chatting about. So be patient while we just wait for others to join us. Just going to give it a couple more minutes for others to join. The people are still joining as I speak. So hang in there and we will start shortly. Thanks for joining us. We're in the webinar and we are also Facebook Live. Just going to give it one more minute in case there's a few late participants. That's a good question from Cassandra. Can we see who else is here? I'm going to throw that one to Luigi, who is our tech person, and he's going to try and figure out how to get everyone up on the screen. We have a feeling, you're using an iPhone, okay, great. We have a feeling that we can't get everyone up on the screen because it's actually a webinar, it's not a meeting. So we're just trying to work through the logistics of that.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to be on a computer, Cassandra. Even if you're on a desktop on a computer, you can still only see the speakers at this point in time.
So whoever's speaking will come up in your screen.
No worries. Okay, so we've got about half the number of participants who are RSVP'd. So we might get started. We are on Facebook Live. A very warm welcome to everyone to our first webinar. My name's Lisa and I'm the CEO of Music SA. I'd like to introduce you to Joel Byrne. Hi, Joel.
Hey.
Joel is our Industry Development Coordinator. Joel sings and plays guitar in Wolfen Cub, so he is a man with about 15 years touring experience, both internationally and nationally. He's managed bands, managed labels, done a lot of band bookings, music festivals and stuff, so he'll be an ideal person to throw questions at. And also Cian Walden is here. Cian runs her own Little Acorn music business as well as works in the industry development section at Music SA. She runs Porchlands and she manages a group of artists including Wanderers, Tom West, Maine, and does a lot of puts a lot of tours together for artists, local artists in South Australia. And Luigi Donnarama, who's the front man for Donnarama and Cat Lucky, and also a music festival event coordinator, is with us, and he's working on all the technical stuff associated with the webinar. So a very warm welcome to you all. Thanks for coming along. I'd like to acknowledge that we are all meeting on the lands of the traditional owners, the Indigenous Australians, and I'm actually in Adelaide, so I'm on Kaurna land, so I'd like to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So I just might go through what you can see on your screen. You should be able to see the faces of the 4 speakers. You should also be able to see Joel's computer, which is set to the Music SA website. So we're going to take you through the website and all the information that you need there. This seminar is basically a stock take of what's happening in the music industry, so in a COVID era. So we're going to talk about how it's had an impact on us as an industry, what resources are available, what assistance is out there to support us, and in a nutshell, how to navigate uncharted waters, because let's face it, it's pretty scary, it's pretty unprecedented, and the impact on our industry has been, well, catastrophic, really. So we're going to try to alleviate some of your anxiety if that's what you're feeling, and give you as much advice as possible. Now, some of you, thank you, have already sent through your questions, and we have grouped those, and most of them will be answered throughout the webinar. If you have other questions, just use that Q&A button down the bottom of your screen, and Luigi will be keeping an eye on that, and we will do our very best to answer your questions. Now, we know that the music industry was one of the first to be impacted due to the mass gathering restrictions. So almost overnight, there's been this terrible impact on our ability to play our music live, and not just for musicians, but also for music venues and all the other music businesses that support the production of live music. Very early on in the piece, about the 12th of March, Music SA worked with our fellow music bodies across the country to set up the I Lost My Gig website. And people have been going to that website and recording their lost income. It's currently sitting at over $330 million in lost income. We've seen the closure of music businesses, the closure, hopefully temporarily, of music venues. And it's been many cancellations of music festivals and events. The number is somewhere over 300,000 across the nation. So that's pretty significant. And it's not surprising then that the government has responded. We will go through a bit later some of those in detail some of those relief packages, including the JobKeeper and the Job Seeker. We'll talk about grant funding and other ways in which you can be deriving income during the COVID era. As much as that sounds terribly demoralizing and upsetting for everyone, what we have witnessed is an incredible groundswell of resilience and creativity and innovation, and people being able to adapt very quickly and make the most of, I guess, engaging with their artists in the main through the online environment. It's been really pleasing to see the sorts of things that our musicians are doing during COVID. Many of them are taking it as an opportunity to songwrite, record, make videos. Some of you might be learning new production software, getting your books in order, self-promoting, and staying in touch with your fans via your socials, writing grants, registering your work with APRA AMCOS, and of course live streaming. We've seen some amazing examples of live streams in the local industry in particular. So, you know, just to name a few, the Sunnyside uploads, the knockoff sessions being run out of the Wheatie. We've got the Bank Street social distance stream. We've seen Girls Rock Adelaide do the Tuesday takeover. Adelaide Roots and Blues Association are doing a weekly live stream. Woodville Hall's doing Foyer Fridays. Adam Page has been doing stuff out of Wizard Tone Studio. The Adelaide Podcast is interviewing an artist every week about a new song and screening their performances. We've also seen the Grace Emily, they're running weekly gigs on Facebook Live, and we've seen some artists such as Kelly, Manhattan and Jermaine on the new SATV, as well as nationally things like Isolate and Delivered Live. And let's not forget, coming up on the 25th of April, a great lineup for Space Jams. So it's really a great, it's great to see so many people live streaming. So we will touch on some of that in a bit more detail. I want to bring to your attention to the fact that the Police Commissioner did issue a direction about gatherings in South Australia. So some of you may be aware that the Prime Minister has banned gatherings of 2 or more people, of gatherings more than 2 people. In South Australia, though, the restriction is 10 and under. So long as you comply with space dimensions and that the gathering of 10 and under is in a space where people can keep 4 square meters apart, so they can comply with those social distancing rules. So what that means for live streaming is that people can hire a recording studio, you can live stream from a venue, you can rehearse as a band as long as you comply with those distance regulations and that you are gathering with 10 or less individuals. So that is the current South Australian ruling. If some of you haven't not yet attempted live streaming, please go onto our website. You will see a best practice guide for live streaming and a beginner's guide for live streaming. Also, one of the things that Music SA is doing, we've converted our gig guide to a live streaming gig guide. So we're trying to promote to audiences your work as much as possible. The other thing I just want to say about live streaming is, and I think this is a discussion that the industry needs to have as a whole, is the monetization of live streaming. We've worked really hard to put a value on music, and I don't think that we should be necessarily giving it away for free, particularly when there there are easy options to allow you to, even on Facebook Live, you can still have a donate button on Facebook Live. You can use pay-to-view streams. You can set up a PayPal link on your live streaming and encourage people to donate. You can use live streaming technology such as Twitch for musicians, OnlyFans, Stage It, or even set up a Patreon account. These are all ways that enable you to be earning income, and for us as an industry to really place value on our music and not necessarily give it away for free. So it's something to think about, and at the very least you should be adding that donate button. What's interesting is that ARIA have just recently released some figures, and they're reporting that audio streaming, so just normal streaming is holding well in Australia. Audio visual streaming has increased slightly, but not as dramatically as we would have liked. And I think what we're seeing is people are actually changing the time and the way in which they consume music. So pre-COVID, a lot of people were streaming on the commute to and from work or during gym sessions. Now people are streaming at any time of the day. And what we have to keep in mind as musicians is that we are also competing with Netflix and podcasts and gaming and cooking and traditional board games. These are what people are doing during COVID. So the point there is that you have to work really hard and don't be ashamed to self-promote and push your live streams out as much as you possibly can. And hopefully someone will come across it and be surprised and join in and click on your link. The other thing I want to say, even though we're not seeing a huge increase in audiences for live streaming, we are seeing what is reported by ARIA today as a big increase in buying physical products, like buying your music and buying merch. So when you are live streaming, it's really important to be directing people to the platforms where you can sell, where you are selling your music, and directing people to the platforms where you are selling your merch. And that's why we brought the Oz Music T-shirt Day forward into April, usually held in November each year, just to enable musicians to earn a few bucks by selling some merch. And it seems like in the past, Australia has lagged behind the UK and the US in terms of people who are doing the mail order purchasing of music and merch. And now that has pivoted right around, and Australia is doing particularly well. So it's a good opportunity to make sure that you've got your merch and you've got it on platforms that people can easily access, or your website. Now, let me just go back to my notes and see where I got to. I want to also talk about what Music SA is doing during this COVID era. So obviously we're doing a lot of promotion of local music. We've got a support your local Spotify playlist. Please send us your latest Spotify release to info@musicsa.com.au and we will add that to our Spotify playlist. If you are busy making a new music video, please send it to us and we will add it to our Music SA YouTube channel. I'm doing a lot of media interviews. There's a lot of interest from the media, so don't be afraid to reach out to community radio stations and online media sites, particularly if you have an interesting story or you think you're doing something that's a little bit different. They're begging for stories about musicians at the moment, so don't be afraid to do that. All our webinars will be going online. All our all our workshops will be going online, and we will be turning them into webinars. And there will be about 6 or 7 of them coming up over the next few months, mainly on music business topics, and all very COVID related, but also related to the recovery and how to prepare and bounce back. We also have available via our website free one-on-one telephone appointments. So if you want to speak to anyone at Music SA and ask them questions following this webinar, or just general questions about, you know, what you should be doing with your marketing at the moment, should you be preparing for tours, etc., then please go onto our website, check out the availability of our staff. Their calendars are up on the website, and book in a telephone chat. That's free, there's no charge. As I said, we've converted our gig guide into a live streaming gig guide, so please shoot through details of your gigs. We've been doing a lot of talking with our friends at the Music Development Office. As you know, the Music Development Office, which is the government-run for contemporary music, they have doubled their contemporary music grant round. So there's $200,000 on offer. That has now closed, but Sian will talk to you about some other grant opportunities shortly. And of course, we've been doing some advocating on your behalf. So I've attended 2 meetings so far with the Premier to discuss the music industry and what the state government can be doing about it. And he's been passing on information about all the federal support, as well as the support that the South Australian government is putting forward, including the recently announced $10,000 grants for small businesses. The Premier is also advocating with the Federal Treasurer, because he's mindful that there are arts workers and musicians who don't qualify for Job Seeker and don't qualify for Job Keeper. And so there's a contingent of people out in the community, sadly, that are not, because of the nature of their work, and they go from short-term contract to short-term contract. We don't want them to fall through the gaps. So the Premier, who's also the Arts Minister, is obviously advocating on your behalf with the Federal Minister to address that issue. We've taken all our training online, and you know, the students seem to be adjusting well to that. Now, before I finish up, I just want to touch on the recovery. I know that top of mind for a lot of us is, when will this go away? When will things go back to normal? I've been told by the Premier, and I think it's pretty common knowledge, that mass gatherings and travel rules are likely to be the last restrictions that will be lifted. So in a way, we are what I'm calling a FILO industry, first in and last out, unfortunately. I'm guessing, but we may even see staged returns to gatherings. So it might initially be 50 people or more. That then poses questions for live music venues. Will it be financially viable to host live music gigs if they can only sell, you know, 50 tickets, and that's only $1,000? They'd have to sell a lot over the beer to be able to cover their labour wages and all the other costs associated with opening the venue. Look, it's crystal ball stuff. We don't know, but what I can tell you is that there are some people in the music industry who think that September, October is a time when some of those restrictions are going to be lifted. What we will see is that I'm pretty certain we won't see any major international artists touring Australia during 2020, because there will be the normal pulls and pressures in their own domestic markets. Their fans in the countries that they live in haven't seen them perform live for quite a while either. So they'll probably service their own homelands before they come to Australia. But also the issue is that when they get to Australia, they might have to quarantine. Excuse me. And I don't think there's many international artists that are going to want to do that. But what that means is that it's a perfect opportunity for Aussie artists and Aussie made music. So I think when we do eventually get back to touring, we're going to see a lot of Aussie artists touring. We're going to see music festivals with Aussie lineups. So, excuse me, that's really great. I was listening to a chat the other day by the CEO of TEG, which is one of the, like Live Nation, one of the big international touring companies. And they own 6 live music venues in the UK. And he was saying that every one of those venues is booked out for September and October. Now, I don't know what data they're working from, but that's their best guess at this stage. So what we've done at Music SA is we've rescheduled the Umbrella Festival, which, as most of you know, is our live music venue. Our live music festival. And we have rescheduled it to the 17th of February or the 18th of February. Which is it?
September.
Stevie? Sorry?
18th. It's the 18th of
Thanks,
September to the 4th of October.
Thank you. The 18th of September to the 4th of October. And what we've done is we have removed the cost of registrations. So free registrations for the Umbrella Festival for any musician, venue or promoter who wants to take part. The cutoff for registering to be part of Umbrella will be the day before, the 17th of September. So we're trying to push that out as far as we possibly can, so that you can have conversations with venues who are thinking about reopening, so that we can just get an idea of what the landscape will be. And look, if worse comes to worse, we will cancel the Umbrella Festival, but that won't be until the 1st of July. And if you have any Umbrella questions, get in touch with Steve Pitkin, or Jessie from Music SA. So clearly I'm talking too much because I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to hand over now to one of the other speakers, but I just want to finish off by saying that when people who've been forcibly isolated for so long eventually get an opportunity to reunite, I think that they will come back with an added appreciation and increased value around live music and what it does for us and our lives, because now more than ever we probably feel connected to people, but we are not connecting with people, and that's what live music will give us when we can get back to gigs. And I look forward to that time, and in the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourself, your friends, your families, and keep engaged with Music SA, and we'll try and keep you updated with stuff as much as possible. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. And now it's over to who, Joel or Sian?
Joel.
I'll take it. Thank you
Joel.
for that, Lisa. Appreciate it. So based on a couple of the questions, or most of the questions that have been coming through on registration, we've found that grant seeking or grant opportunities and JobKeeper seems to be the predominant cause for concern or question that's been popping up. So what we're going to do is hopefully try and guide you through what's happening there, but by all means, we're only directing you to the information, and if you want to seek it out, you're best to do it on your own, but we're happy to kind of consult where necessary. So based on the funding that's available, thankfully, with regards to the response to COVID, we've had a lot of organisations offering support and fast-tracking funding rounds to accommodate the shortfall or the the results of what's been happening with COVID. So one of those in particular is the Adelaide City Council. So if I can direct you all to the website, which is our Music SA website, we've got a raft of resources that are there. And one in particular is our funding opportunities. So we've got a lot of information that's there. But the response from the Adelaide City Council with regards to COVID is to create, or not to create, but to direct people to the arts and cultural grants, which are offering a few different options for music funding in the grant program. There's also quick response grants available. Another major funding round is also available for 4 weeks. The quick response grants are open-ended and there's no immediate deadline. The live music enterprise grants are particularly useful for live streaming, which is obviously a more important way for live music to get out there. Looks like my audio's gone. Can everyone hear me okay?
That's weird.
People type in a yes if you can hear.
Oh, good. That's
Mario
good. Thanks,
can hear,
Mario.
Courtney can
Thanks,
hear,
Mario.
Cameron can hear, Ashley
Oh,
can
that's very good. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's good to know.
Okay.
So bear in mind, so as live streaming has become pretty more important and a better way for people to kind of get live music out, they're definitely asking for opportunities there, or asking for grants that are catering to live music streaming. Deadline there is 4th of May. So just keep in mind that is looming. But if you did have some questions about that, by all means, you can hit up anybody at City of Adelaide Arts, and Malia is probably your best port of call there. But by all means, hit us up and we'll be able to direct you to the right place. Arts Co have also got some funding opportunities available. They launched the 2020 Resilience Fund, which if you click here, you'll be taken to. They've broken it up into 3 categories. There's survive, adapt, and create. And what those basically are different pools of funding. So we've got the survive, which is a small grants for individuals, groups, and organisations to offset or recoup financial losses due to cancelled activity. They have the adapt, which is grants for individuals, groups, and organisations to adapt their practices and explore new operating models. And the create, so that's grants for individuals and organisations to continue to create artistic work and develop creative responses in time of disruption. So there's definitely a lot of options there. So by all means, explore, look into it, hit up as many people as you can to get as much information as you can. But we're also available to direct you where you need. Also, the MDO had fast-tracked had changed their funding system to accommodate the recent situation with COVID. That's no longer available, and it has closed. And we understand they had an unprecedented amount of applications come in, which is obvious. Obviously, it's not much point talking about it now, but keep an ear out for the next round of funding that may be announced soon. We can't guarantee that when that's happening, we can't confirm, but keep in mind that the next round of funding may be happening if you weren't successful or weren't able to get any applications in this time. The other important one, and I try to direct as many people that I can to this one if they are under 26, is the Car Clue. So the Car Clue grants have launched, and they've launched their rapid response grants, and that's aimed at supporting artists whose work has been impacted by COVID-19. There's up to $2,500 per application is available for young artists aged 26 and under to redesign a project, deepen practice, or extend skills and knowledge. Their priority is to support artists who had contracts, performances, and tours cancelled and exhibitions postponed. Applications will close Thursday, 30th of April, so that's pretty close. If you are under 26, you're in a very small niche or a small pool of people. So if you are an artist and you are doing stuff and you're under 26, by all means look into that, because it's very valuable, and it's a worthwhile grant to be looking into. By all means, look at our website, ask us any questions, hit us up via info@musicsa.com.au. We'll happily direct you to wherever we can or wherever is necessary for you to get some funding, because it's obvious that a lot of the organizations are aware of how hard hit the music industry has been by COVID, and they're presenting these opportunities. So what I say with grants opportunities is, if there's no people applying for grants, there's not going to be any pool of money coming in future rounds, because they can't justify the reason for putting this money up for opportunities. Now, another topic that's probably, a major concern for a lot of people is the recent announcement about JobKeeper. Now, we tried to kind of keep on top of this as best we can, but we stress that it's important to consult an accountant or anyone that you know to be an accountant to give you the best advice that you can. Tian's kind of on top of that at the moment, so I'll probably hand it over to her to give us a bit of an explanation about what it is and how it can be used to help the music community in South Australia.
Thanks, Joel. Hey, everyone. It's great to see some really familiar names on the chat and getting involved. Thanks for coming along. And I wish we could see you all in person. Want to give you all hugs. But I will try and be as brief as I can with JobKeeper and some of the government packages. I know that we received a lot of questions about this one, and particularly there's been a lot of questions about this program from many parts of the industry, because it's one of the biggest lifelines that we've received so far during this COVID situation. So essentially, I just want to reiterate that this is blanket advice. Please do seek out financial advice from your accountant or financial advisor as to what's going to be pertinent for you, just because we're going to try and go with a generalized understanding. Most of our questions were for sole trader musicians, but we understand that there's people representing a number of different organizational structures. So I'll touch on a couple of things there, but this is generalized for sole traders. So a couple of people have asked about JobKeeper versus JobSeeker. I know that obviously we got information about JobSeeker prior to JobKeeper. So JobSeeker is the New Start allowance rebranded. It's that, I guess we refer to it, call it as kind of like casually as the dole. And that has been a double up of that previous payment. So if you have if you've lost your job, or you're another part of the industry that maybe doesn't have an ABN or doesn't, you're not a sole trader, JobSeeker might be the best option for you. And that's where you need to apply directly to Centrelink to discuss kind of your eligibility. And there's a number of different things that they require from you to kind of go through that. One thing that's particularly worth mentioning when comparing JobKeeper to JobSeeker, if you're maybe eligible for both, is one, JobKeeper does incur, where you do get more per fortnight. It's around about $300 per fortnight more. You're then responsible for your own tax as well. So JobSeeker, there's tax kind of implications that Centrelink will be responsible for. But if you're on JobKeeper, you are, as a sole trader, then you're responsible as a sole trader for your own tax. If you haven't done your tax in a long time, we've been given some advice by accountants that that's not going to be looked upon favorably for JobKeeper, and it's probably better that you go, if you're eligible, to seek out JobSeeker. It's just a bit of a harder one to establish. But for all of these packages, it is important that you go and complete your tax returns ASAP. The other thing, just to address those other kind of organizational structures that I mentioned before. So sole traders are eligible for JobKeeper, but if you're in a partnership or a company or a trust, I know there might be some bands in Adelaide that are partnerships, or there might be some companies or venues, etc. Please note that JobKeeper payments are only made to one person as part of that kind of structure. So say you're in a band, it's been sort of suggested that you can still apply for JobKeeper, but you might need to have other band members go and apply for JobSeeker if you're all without income. There's a couple of things about eligibility that have become a little bit clearer in the last little while. A lot of those things relate to that comparison period of decline of income. Basically, you are not eligible for JobKeeper if you have any other income source. So regardless of how much that income source is, if you're a permanent employee, a permanent casual, if you've been a casual worker for over 12 months, unfortunately, and if you've got that income still, you're not eligible for JobKeeper. You may be eligible then for JobSeeker. Again, it's best to get someone to assist you with kind of comparing as to what's going to be the best option there. With the kind of demonstrating your loss of 30%, the decrease that you need to demonstrate in your business is that you've lost 30% of your income due to COVID. Now, I know a lot of people were like wanting to know how that was going to be worked out, and obviously the music industry particularly has some complexities around, or the music industry and the arts in general, some complexities about when we earn money. And there is a couple of different ways that you can show that. So it can be a month-to-month comparison. So for the 6 month that JobKeeper is eligible, or in place for, it's to the end of September, you can use 1 month to 1 month. So say April 2020 versus April 2019, and you need to demonstrate that you've lost 30% of your income in that time. If that doesn't kind of reflect the reality of your business, you can also use a financial quarter comparison. So that would be April to June or July to September, and use those things to compare and demonstrate your 30% reduction in income. There is an alternative way. So that's the kind of the straightforward basic test of eligibility. All of this eligibility is looked at through the ATO. So it's a separate thing to Centrelink. So if you have what they've labeled lumpy income, so for example, say you're a band that was recording last year at this period of time, so you wouldn't have probably had much income, but you were due to go on tour over kind of the next couple of months, or February, March, and so you had a lot of income that you've now lost. There is an alternative test that the ATO hasn't really provided too much information about just yet as to how that's going to be worked out, but there is some planning as to how that's going to be worked out and identified. So don't lose hope that that's going to be addressed for those people that and our industry that tends to have some real differences there. The other thing that we wanted to let you know as a sole trader, and particularly if you haven't registered for GST. So if you register for GST and you have been submitting your BAS, then that's fine. But if you're a sole trader, particularly who hasn't submitted their tax return, at this point of time, the ruling is that if it hasn't been submitted by the 12th of March, you're ineligible. But we do know that because that's technically not illegal, you can still submit your tax return until May 15th of this year. There are people working on getting advice from the government as to how that's going to be addressed. So please know that is incredibly important for a lot of people. So there's a lot of people chasing that one down. The other thing that's important is the upcoming deadline for registration. So JobKeeper registrations and kind of expression of interests are closing on April 26th. So you need to make sure you get in there and register your interest. I have been informed that, say you haven't lost income yet, but you know that you're going to in the next couple of months, you still can register for job. You can register and then kind of put in your claim later on. So if you think that that's going to be something, I would definitely be kind of getting your name registered and your business registered as soon as you can. And that way you've just got that safeguard there. If you're a business and you're paying employees, or if you're an employee, once you have become eligible for JobKeeper, you're eligible for the entire period. So JobKeeper's paid fortnightly in arrears. So as an employee, your employer, you have to pay those wages out and then the ATO will reimburse you for them. So for anyone out there who's kind of wondering about what their employer is supposed to be doing, there's a number of resources also available to you if that's your circumstance, particularly when it comes to kind of how you're getting paid and what you're also expected to do. But it is important to note that both as a company or a sole trader or anyone that is employing people and is going to be paying them JobKeeper, you need to advise them in writing that they are eligible for JobKeeper. And as an employee, if you're seeking out JobKeeper or earning JobKeeper or JobSeeker from another source, you need to advise your employer as well, because you can't be doubling up on any of those. So you can't earn JobKeeper from multiple sources of income. A couple of other things I'm just going to check in. I've covered that. I think that's most of the stuff there. The other thing to note, if you are receiving JobKeeper as an employee, your employer has to pass on the full $1,500. That is before tax, so they will withhold tax from that. And then they are responsible for any other entitlements that you would have received. If you've been stood down and wouldn't be working over that time, but you've been given JobKeeper, you're not then entitled to things like super or accruing annual leave or sick leave as well. I think that's all I've got on JobKeeper. If anyone's got any questions specifically about it, we just wanted to kind of keep it as brief as possible. But as Luigi's popped there, my email's there if you've got any questions or you want any other resources. There's some great things out and about JobKeeper that we can give you. But please keep in mind that April 26th registration date.
Yeah, I mean, the JobKeeper stuff is just so complicated, and a lot of people are concerned about it, have a lot of questions about it. But yeah, we can't reiterate enough that you need to kind of seek some advice from a professional. Definitely hit up an accountant if you can, because they'll best kind of direct you where you need to.
And I might just add there, Joel, sorry for interrupting, but I might
No,
just
you're right.
add that White Sky Accountants, who are probably one of the most well-known accountants in the music industry, have just released a JobKeeper guidelines today as a PDF. So go to the White Sky website and you can get further details there.
And you can actually see that via our site. We've just popped that up there here as well. So, like I said, we update this website every day, or we try to keep it as up to date as possible. It's a resource that we kind of feel is pretty valuable for a lot of people at the moment, just because there is so much information coming through. We would hope to have it in one place for you. So keep in mind that if there is new information, you're hopefully going to find it here. Sorry, Sam, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just also going to talk about this afternoon, the South Australian government announced some small payments to anyone receiving JobSeeker at this point of time. They refer to it as, I'll just get the name, it's called the cost of living concession. It will be a $500 one-off payment to anyone on JobSeeker, but there's also eligibility for other people that aren't currently on JobSeeker. So there's going to be more information, and we'll be able to deliver that to you onto the COVID resources page as soon as it's a little bit clearer. But the other thing I think Lisa also touched on earlier was the South Australian Business $10,000 kind of grant. That's currently now open for sort of submissions and registration. One of the key things that you must know about that, or two key things, is that you must be turning over $75,000 a year and you must have employees. Unfortunately, so if you are a sole trader and it's only yourself, you're ineligible for that one. But we'll be keeping that COVID resources page up to date. And just something else to touch on, well, I know we spoke about APRA and PPCA, or spoke about APRA and how they'll be paying their LPRs out soon. So the live performance reports, they'll be brought forward to May. And you don't need to do anything for that. If you've submitted your live performance report previously, that will just automatically be rolled out to you in May. Importantly, if you have never done that before, it's a really great time to utilize this downtime that we've got to register your songs, make sure all of the details are up to date, and that you are maybe getting ahead of any live performance reports that you haven't submitted. But it's also a really great time to get on top of PPCA. So PPCA, for those of you who are registered already, they are advancing some royalties. So that's the PPCA are the royalty body behind sound recordings, and what they're doing for any of their artist royalties from if you've earned over $1,000 in the past 3 years, they're offering you a 25% advance on those royalties. So minimum of $250. So that's why if you've earned 1,000, they'll give you 250 and up to 10,000. They will be getting in touch with artists that are due that, but there's a couple, they're only a small organization. So if you do know that you have earned over that amount, please reach out to them and chat to them about that. I'd also recommend everyone getting on to registering with PPCA as well. That they have a slightly different system. It's a bit more structured and there's not really any backdating on that. So unlike APRA, who are a bit more open to that, PPCA have quite a structured time frame that you need to register, so make sure you get onto those ones.
And it's a simple case of just emailing this distribution.mail@ppca.com.au. So just hit them up and just kind of make an inquiry about whether you're eligible for getting that advance. I'm just going to race through the next part. As we're running out of time, we want to allocate a bit of time to some question time. Mental health is obviously a major issue for everyone at the moment, especially in the music industry. There's a lot of options or a lot of info here on the website. The major one obviously at the moment is the Support Act that everyone might be aware of or unaware of. If you're not, seek them out. If you do need a bit of support, it's one of Australia's only charities delivering crisis relief services to artists, crew and music workers as a result of ill health or injury, and especially mental problems, which definitely may be the case during this time. They can assist in the form of paying the rent or mortgage or buying a bed or a wheelchair or paying for repairs for people that are in need or are as a result of an injury or something related to their work in the music industry. They've got a variety of options. They've got a variety of services, especially their helpline, which is open 24/7. So definitely hit it up. And if you do need a bit of support, it's definitely needed at this time. The other thing that we that's popped up, or in relation to the COVID response, is a lot of practical tools that popped up, which I found to be pretty entertaining and pretty valuable, especially this time. The one in particular I like is the free Moog app, which you can use on your phone. It's pretty cool. I don't know anyone out there that's kind of like that way inclined, but it's pretty cool just to make some music. I think I've kind of definitely used it in recordings, and it's free, which is also kind of really important at this time, given everyone's probably pinching pennies, based on not knowing where their next income's going to come from. The other really great one is the Triple J Unearthed to launch the DIY supergroup, and essentially that's a major Australian artist uploading stems of their tracks, and you're able to, as an artist, download the samples and loops and use them and make your own music. And I'm sure that's a good opportunity for a lot of burgeoning producers out there just to kind of try their skills, and especially using tracks and stems from some pretty important Australian artists. So definitely look into that. I can't advocate enough to direct you to this website, because we've got everything in there that's necessary to kind of navigate what's happening with COVID at the moment. Sam, is there anything else that we kind of wanted to touch on before we kind of put it to question time?
You're muted, Sian.
Oh, Sian.
What's going on?
You might have muted her, Luigi.
I have not touched anything. Hold on.
Let's just, I'll
Mute
just.
me, Luigi. Sorry. I don't know what I did. Unmute.
Great.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
She's back. There we
there
go.
we go.
No, I muted myself so everyone didn't have to listen to me drinking my water and then it wouldn't unmute me. We had a number of questions about live streaming monetization. And as Lisa touched on earlier, we really want to encourage everyone to make sure they're putting value in their live streams. And we know that you've all worked really hard to build up those audiences and the following. And there's a number of ways in which you can ask your following and your fans to donate to you. Lisa outlined some of them, and there's a number of really great resources, again, directed on our COVID resources page. But I just wanted to kind of touch on a couple of national or international programs that particularly are thinking about, wow, you might be live streaming. There's a number of businesses and other kind of organizations that don't have that as an avenue of income at this point of time. So we do highly recommend donating any income from your gig if you can to Support Act. We also encourage you to encourage your fans to hold on to their tickets. That helps not only the artist, it helps the booking agents, it helps the venues, it helps the promoters, but be thinking about those people behind the scenes that also rely on musicians for income. And there are a number of ways that you can support those if you would like to, but also we're really aware that you're also trying to work hard to make your own income during this time. So if you have the opportunity to, there are a number of ways in which you can do that. The Sound of Silence is a really great industry initiative. They've got a number of t-shirts for sale just to draw attention to the people that have lost income over this time. I Lost My Gig is a really great one, just to kind of show the government particularly how much money the live music and the music industry injects and what COVID has done to that. We encourage you, keep your tickets or donate your ticket if you can no longer go and you get a refund. And particularly when those restrictions do lift, and I know we've had questions about when they will be lifting, and it's anyone's guess as to when that will happen. But we just encourage you to make sure that prior to that and when they do open, that you're really encouraging the greater ecosystem that supports the music industry. So make sure that you're tuning into our local radio stations, you're listening to local podcasts, that you're going along to those venues and those local businesses that do make things. And there's also a number of creatives that are reliant on musicians for their income. So there's photographers and videographers and graphic designers and studios and radio stations that all kind of are impacted, and we're all trying to campaign and talk about making sure that we're thinking of Australian content. And that does include those behind the scenes integral people that make this all happen. So if you need any information on any of that, again, please reach out to us. But if you need further info on how to make money yourselves through live streams, we've also got those things for you as well.
Yeah, some pretty comprehensive guides in there about live streaming. It's there's a lot of information out there, and it's all here. But it's definitely something that you can look into doing. And I know we've had a lot of questions about it. Hopefully, if we haven't answered your question here, like Sian said, we can answer it either face to face via our one-to-one industry development meetings, which is still happening at the moment, but in phone consultation form. So again, I'm going to direct you to our website, but if you did want to have a book a meeting with either of our industry reps, please do so. Happy to take your call and even just have a conversation if you need it. So that's kind of what we're here for as well. So keep that in mind, please. Have we got any questions coming through that we haven't already answered or can answer? How much lead time, Cassandra? That's something we're unsure of. I'm sure Lisa can kind of attest to that it's difficult to know exactly at this time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's really crystal ball exercise to try to guess when the restrictions will be lifted. Some people in the industry are predicting September, October, and you'll see that some of the major festivals have been rescheduled for that time. We know that some of the live music venues are rescheduling their gigs for the end of the year and early into 2021. As I said, Umbrella Festival has been rescheduled from to the 18th of September to the 4th of October. Big Sound, we've been told, is still going ahead. We don't know in what format yet, but you know, the sad thing is that the restrictions on mass gatherings and the travel rules will be some of the last restrictions to be lifted. But on a more positive note, South Australia has been doing very, very well in terms of our COVID numbers. People are really embracing the whole stay at home obligation for us to keep us and everyone else safe at the moment. So I think that's possibly putting us in a good position for the government to consider opening up some industries, you know, sooner rather than later. But who knows? Especially if there's going to be a second round of COVID, then, you know, we might be in this for the long haul. I hope not. But look, I just want to finish up by saying thank you very much, everyone, for participating. Take care of yourself. Keep online, share your music, share the music of other South Australians, and don't hesitate to reach out and seek help from any of those mental health resources that we've got listed on our website. It can be a time of fear and anxiety and depression for people when they're feeling so isolated, but make sure that you've become part of the Music SA family, that you reach out to us, and that you take part in our seminars, which we hope to be hosting weekly. And yes, stay safe and take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your love. Everyone's sending love. Thanks, people.